There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
All right. We've been watching paranormal TV shows for quite some time.
Yep.
Right? We've seen large teams like Most Haunted, right?
Yes.
We've seen teams that are medium-sized like Ghost Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen smaller teams like Ghost Adventures.
Correct.
We've seen two people go in together to haunted locations like Paranormal Lockdown with Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman.
Yep.
It's about time somebody starts anchoring and taking these challenges on by themselves to really get in there. It won't be me.
No.
Probably not you, Gimpy. I don't know if you can get around in an old haunted building with that.
How do I run away
boot.
with only one
exactly.
leg? Yeah.
It's going to be hard to meander your way through the building.
Unless I roll away
right?
on my knee caddy or
Sonic
something.
the Hedgehog?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean roll away on a knee caddy. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were just going to like drop into a ball and start rolling down the hall.
I could do that too.
You could try.
I'm limber with this DDP yoga thing.
So I got a guest joining us tonight. His new book is called Timelines, Solo Overnight Explorations of Some of America's Most Haunted Locations. Would you do that? Now, I joke, but I've been in haunted locations by myself. I've walked Waverly Hills Sanitarium by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Waverly Challenge.
Yeah, I've been in Rolling Hills Asylum by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in different parts of the Queen Mary by myself. The engine room, the first class pool. I've even been down in the bow of the boat, that they don't allow you into anymore, by myself and with one other person. So I've been down there in very small groups. But, you know, those places kind of felt like home to me. And I've been in, you know, the Stanley Hotel, down in the concert hall, down in a few of those rooms by myself.
Sure.
But, you know, there are, I have to be honest with you, there are a few places that I just feel like, I don't know that I'd want to be in there. Like the Island of the Dolls in Mexico.
Yeah.
And why? They're dolls. I can kick them, right? Their little hollow plastic heads are going to roll.
You can drop kick them.
Right? What am I going to be afraid of on that deal? But there's still that kind of uneasiness when you're going alone.
Yeah.
You know? I wonder if there's like a strength in doing it while you're video streaming because you're still trying to look cool.
Yeah.
But truly just going in alone into these kind of settings.
Well, and we're always told, too, as investigators, never to go by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if things go horribly, horribly wrong.
You got to have somebody to throw in front of you.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can make your way out. That's why I bring you, Tim.
What?
What?
Huh?
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 Well, so that I could fall down for you so you could get out safely.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Or trip you on your peg leg.
What?
What?
Huh?
I'm just throwing it out there. It's something to think about.
Oh.
So it's cool. And you got to give props to the guy that's willing to go in, explore these places, and kind of put the things to the test and not be influenced by the responses of other people.
Right.
Right? Because when we go in, and we've been in these situations where we go into these haunted locations and we're sometimes there with very large groups, sometimes just small groups.
Right.
But, you know, once one person starts kind of responding to the atmosphere, how that can kind of start making everybody else feel certain ways.
A little bit of mass hysteria.
Right.
Yeah.
And hysteria sounds like they're out of control, but you know,
no,
you can get that, it starts rising the anxiety level. And I've had places like in the Palmer House Hotel where I'm not afraid of it. I'm unnerved sometimes. I've been in places where I'm not afraid. I don't sense anything going on, but my anxiety will hit the roof.
Right.
When I'm with certain people, and that's because of their anxiety. And I don't know if it's because I'm just a sensitive empath, Tim. I don't know if I told you about that. I kind of write poetry.
Look at you.
And, I'm a bit of a sensitive when it comes to that. But I don't know if it's that I'm kind of empathic in that sense, so I start picking up on other people's agitation and anxiety. But I don't like those moments. So the idea to kind of go in and set yourself aside. I give a lot of props to people like that. And that's why I decided to bring this guest on.
Okay.
And I'll butcher his last name, Tim, because I'm just not good at these things.
Good for you.
Patrick Orozco is going to join us right now. How you doing tonight, Patrick?
I'm doing good.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your story, your exploration of these experiences and locations. Before we get too deep into the places that you visited, I want to know a little bit about you, just as a person. Did you have kind of a lifelong interest in the paranormal, or did this ignite with the popularity of the paranormal on TV?
A little of both. I had my first ghostly experience when I was 5 years old, just a few hours after my grandfather died. And it was an interesting experience, and I'm pretty sure it was him. And yes, the popular shows on TV. I used to be a fan of Ghost Hunters when it first started, and I watched it pretty religiously. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. After I went to my first or maybe my second location, and I understood the process of making that kind of a show, I just really lost interest in watching it on TV because I thought, well, no, I want to do that.
Right.
And I wanted to do it solo.
All right. That's acceptable. Now, let's go back to the story with your grandfather. Your grandfather passes away. Were you close with him?
All us kids were. We were a big family, and we lived in the middle of the block. My grandfather and grandmother lived on the left, and then my cousins lived on the right. So we were always waiting for him to come home from work and just to hang out with him. On paydays, he would always bring us treats, ice creams or candy bars or change. And
wow.
So, yeah.
What a great life to be surrounded by family like that. I mean, literally within either side of you, you've got family members. So you had a close relationship with your grandfather. How old were you when he passed away?
I was 5 years old.
5 years old. Now, walk us through that experience. What happened to you that made you believe that you had a paranormal experience at that age?
Me and my cousin George, we used to hang out a lot together. Mm-hmm. And we were hanging out, and we started to hear all this crying coming from my grandmother's house. And I saw my mom running over. I saw his dad running over, and we thought, something's happened. And we were going to go check it out, see what was going on. And my sister caught up to us and said, no, come and sit in the carport, and you wait till I get back. And she went over, and we kept hearing the cries and all that stuff. It's pretty traumatic. But we sat there, and within a few minutes, the gate to my yard opened on its own and then closed on its own. And that's a cyclone fence. That's a chain link fence. It doesn't have a surface area big enough to be caught by the wind or by. So I knew. Now, is it one of those little latch fences as well? Did the latch lift up? It was because of all the commotion. It was unlatched. Okay. And it was just resting on the other side of the mm-hmm. fence. And George, my cousin, he knew that sort of thing wasn't off. He takes off running to my backyard. He leaves me there alone. Oh, George. That age. George was also 5. Oh, okay. And, all right. And he could run fast. Sure. So in a puff of smoke, he's gone. All right. Yeah. So I take off after him. Uh-huh. And I'm hoping that he's going to stay in the backyard with me. No. He jumps the fence to his yard, falls over, and in 2 seconds he's in the house. Right. And he's left me. Right. And I know what we just saw wasn't something that was supposed to happen. Right. Okay. And I don't remember what else happened after that. But I now, did you have a sense of fear? A little bit, yeah. Okay. Yeah. What frightened you about it? Because it was unexpected, or because you thought it might be Grandpa? I think it was both. Okay. Because I knew, wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen. Right. That gate isn't supposed to move like that. Not only that, it was kind of a little bit uphill. Sure. Okay. And I thought, it wasn't until I was in the backyard that I thought, well, no, see, because I didn't know that they hadn't told us that our grandfather had died yet, so I didn't know. I just knew something really weird's going on here.
All right. So you find out then, how long after that moment do you find out your grandfather has passed away?
It wasn't until much later in the evening. And I don't really remember exactly how I was told. I don't remember that moment. I don't know, maybe I was too young to process it.
Right. Did you relate to your family what had occurred to you that day, or was that just something you and George silently kept to yourselves?
We kept that to ourselves.
Okay.
We never even talked about it.
Uh-huh. All right, so this was kind of your first introduction to what you believe was the paranormal, and do you think it was your grandfather just coming to check on you, just to make sure you were okay, be with you while everyone else was doing what they were doing?
At first, I thought he was being mean. I thought, why would he scare us like that?
Right.
It wasn't until much later that when I was a teenager that I finally, that I understood it. I think that was his sign to us that he was okay and that he was still around. Yeah, exactly. That's how. But I didn't come to that conclusion until much later. Did you ever tell your family about that? I did, and it took, again, it wasn't until I was about a teenager that I told them about it.
How did they respond when you shared that story?
Surprise. I think maybe they thought we were just kids, and maybe we didn't really see what we thought we saw.
Sure.
And it's just mild surprise, mild acceptance.
And that was it. Now, had you had other experiences growing up with what is the paranormal now? It's something that maybe you didn't think of at that point, but as you look back at it through the eyes of an adult, you go, you know what? I think I had this happen to me back then.
Not so much. We were kids. We watched the movies of that time, and Halloween would come around, and we'd talk about ghost stories, and we'd try a seance or two, or we had a Ouija board, and we had some kind of interesting experiences, but nothing outright like that experience. Until I was a teenager, and what happened is my brother moved into my grandmother's house. She moved in us so that my mom could take care of her. And I was over at my grandmother's house, and I was playing the stereo really, really loud. And for about an hour or two, and I was talking on the phone with friends, being a teenager, and I shut everything down and turned off all the lights, and I was about to leave. I was about to close the door when I heard like a breath, like a sigh, like a really long, heavy sigh. And I know that was my grandfather, and I know he was screwing with me. I know he was trying to scare me, because he did. I was terrified.
Why do you think he would try to scare you, though? What would be the purpose for that?
Was
he just silly?
Irritating him. No, I think I was irritating him for 2 hours listening to all this Neil Young and blasting that stereo as loud as it could go.
I can't blame him. If you were forcing me to listen to Neil Young, I'd be heavy sighing at you as well.
Yeah, I think that's what happened, and he I bet you got a big laugh out of it, because I was shaking when I got home, and Mom noticed. He said, "What the hell happened?" And I told her, and they could see that I was really scared.
And what did you tell them?
I told them exactly what had happened, and again, it was that just this acceptance. They knew I was scared. They could see it in my face, obviously.
Okay. And you have that experience. Now, you said that you had some experiences playing with Ouija boards. Did you ever have anything actually happen utilizing a Ouija board?
No. The only thing we had happen was we were tricked into believing something had happened by my older brother.
That son of a bitch.
Who was out, yeah. He was out in the hallway pounding on the wall, while we're doing our seance. And
really?
We all started running.
All right, so there was nothing legitimately happened to you with that. But that was still enough to fire you up and keep you interested, and then you started watching the paranormal shows. They kind of got your juices flowing for this. What was the first place you legitimately set out to investigate. And did you go with others, or did you decide straight out of the chute you were going to start going to check these places out on your own?
I wanted to go check them out on my own, but I wanted to just test it. I wanted to see if I could get anything on audio, if I could get maybe something on my camera. I just wanted to see what the experience was like. So the first place I went to was Waverly Hills, and that was with a group. It was
right.
a group of about 30, 35 people maybe.
Okay.
And we were broken up into smaller groups, and we were assigned a floor, and then through the night we were rotated through the floors. And that's where I had my first shadow person experience.
Well, what happened to you there? You were, and having been there, that is the only place I've had where I would say is the most profound shadow person experience of my life. But what happened with you?
So did I. I was on the fourth floor up outside of the surgical units there. And that's when I started to kind of see this shadow activity happening, the shadow play. And the moon was out, and there was this ambient light coming in through each side of the hallway through the open doors. And I was just sitting there, and I remember sitting on the floor, and I was just videotaping. I had my IR camera, video camera, and the hallway started to darken. And it started to darken, and it seemed like it was getting closer and closer to me. And every time it got closer to me, the moonlight from each side of the windows would get blocked out. And I thought, I didn't know what to make of it. I thought, what is this? What's going on? So it got to about 6 or 8 feet away from me, and I got up to go take a look to see what was happening. And as I approached, it backed away from me really quickly. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, that's weird.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe there's clouds and maybe the moonlight got blocked out. That's how this happened. So I went out in the balcony, and it was completely clear. There were no clouds. So I thought, well, that was weird. So I went back. I sat down in front of it in the hallway, just right outside the surgical unit. And I was pointing my camera down the hallway. And unfortunately, the IR light, it didn't come out in my camera. It was just too dark to see it. But the exact same thing happened again. This darkness started to come toward me. And as it did, it would block out the moonlight coming up from the windows. And I got up again, and I walked towards it quickly, and it backed away from me again.
Now, did you try to speak to it? Did you try to reach out or say, hey, is somebody there?
No, I was laughing, and I think I was saying some expletives, I'm sure.
All right.
Because I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this was happening. And I thought, well, let's see if I can make this happen again. So I'm sitting on the hallway, and unfortunately, the group caught up to me. They were coming toward me. I could see the flashes of cameras and the flashlights, and sadly, I didn't get it to happen again because they caught up to me, and I had to quickly make my way away from the group, typical introvert, and go be alone in some other part of the hospital.
And once you did that, is it hard to walk away from a location that you've just had a profound experience from, or did you kind of need a break from it because you were like, I just need to go somewhere and process this?
Well, because of the nature of how that happened, because there were other people there, and they were talking, and it was more of a frustrating experience for me.
Okay.
And that's when I realized, I have to do this alone. I have to go solo because these folks are just talking way too much. They're flashing their cameras way too much. There's too many flashlights in here. And, but I wanted more. I wanted more to happen. And we had been told that there was a new entity in there called the Creeper. And I went to the empty side of the building and on the fourth floor, and I just started taunting it, hoping that maybe it would come out, and do something to me.
do something to you? What specifically were you hoping it was going to do to you, Patrick?
Well, it's been known, allegedly, to charge people, to scratch people.
Right.
So, yeah.
So were you Were you telling him, come on out and scratch me, come charge me? What was your?
Yeah.
Really?
Just taunting it, just saying, creeper, I'm all by myself over here, all vulnerable and everything. Come and get me.
Do you think the creeper's over there going, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Freak show. I'm not into S&M, buddy. I just like scaring you. Hey, creeper. Yeah, I think to him, you were the creeper. Somewhere on the other side of the universe in the upside down, he's going, what the hell's going on? Do you guys hear that? All right. So, but no experience with the creeper. You didn't have anything else happening. Just that one shadow person
Sadly,
experience?
The shadow people. Yeah. I continued to have shadow people experiences. Yeah. And and it was fast. It was lightning fast.
Right.
There was a moment when I was sitting on the floor and they just started swirling around me. And this happened in 4 or 5 seconds. And then it was gone.
Was there any sound or lack of sound that came at that?
No sound. And we had, this was in the summertime, this was in July, and it was a heat wave that year. That was 2012. And I don't know if it's cicadas or some bugs, and were deafening. So if there was sound, I may have missed it because it was really loud.
Okay. The reason I asked about lack of sound was in some cases like that, when you can hear the cicadas or you hear the outside world, and then something like this makes itself known in such a prevalent way, sometimes people will realize that in those moments, all the rest of the sound seems to have vanished. They're not getting any other sound that they were normally hearing. It's almost like their ears get deafened to it because of the experience or the other side. It's strange.
That does happen, yeah. And it has happened to me, yeah.
All right. And now where was so that was it. After that, did you check? Were you recording for voice? Were you, doing EVP work?
I was, but again, the bugs were loud. Sometimes the other folks that were there were loud also, and they were talking. The only time I was able to really get some alone time was in the death chute, and that was the second night I was there. And I was in there, I think about 3 a.m. And I got to what I thought was the middle of the death chute. And I started a session. I started doing a session, and I got just one word, and I'm not sure if it's so or soul.
And that was it, just one word. See, that was the other place, the death chute on our very first trip there. A mother and daughter went down there to investigate during our event, and they were the only ones there. I couldn't believe everybody else was in the building. Nobody was going to the death chute. Then the mother and daughter came out, and they're like, Dave, there's something going on in the death chute. We can hear footsteps. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we go in, and we get about halfway, and I say, turn off all your lights. So we turned off all of our lights, right?
Yeah.
And then we're waiting, and it's silent. And then from the bottom of the concrete steps, you start hearing and we're all waiting there, and I've got the mom reaches over and grabs my hand. The daughter moves in closer to me, and I wait, and then I turn on the flashlight, and I'm thinking somebody just made their way up from the bottom of these stairs. As soon as I hit the flashlight, the footsteps stop, and they sound like they're maybe 5 or 6 steps away from us, and there's nobody there.
Wow.
Then we clear it, and at the very end of the night, I have to go all the way down. Did you go all the way to the bottom of that?
I did, yeah.
Right. We were there in August, so you know how damn hot and steamy it gets in Louisville, Kentucky during that time of year. So I had to go all the way down to make sure no goofballs had wandered off or gone down there and screwing around. So I walk all the way down there by myself. I start coming up the stairs. My flashlight's fading in and out on me, and I start picking up my speed. And I'm like, not that I'm afraid, but I just, just get out of here. I got to go home. I got things to do. I'm picking up my speed, and very clearly I can hear a second set of footsteps running up the stairs behind me. And I'm like, no, it's got to be an echo. It's got to be an echo. So I stop, and I still hear behind me, like it ran and then stopped on the stair behind me. And then I'm not positive, but I think I Scooby-Dooed it the rest of the way. My legs just spun, and I left a trail of smoke going up the rest of those stairs. But right, it's interesting. I had a shadow person experience there that was profound, and had a weird experience in the death tunnel. So did you. But that's a different kind of place. That is just off the hook weird.
I love the place.
Oh, I do too. It's a great place, and it's crazy active. All right, so that was kind of your indoctrination for a real investigation, even though you were there with a larger group. But is that what was starting to turn you off on the idea of being there with others that just didn't know how to shut up or stop shuffling or sniffing, scratching, whatever it was, while you're trying to investigate?
Yes. And I knew immediately that I had to do this alone, and that it would be much better going in solo. So the following year, 2013, is when I went to the 5 other locations that are in the book.
All right. Well, let's go ahead.
Solo. Yeah, alone. Yeah.
The idea that you're going to go into these locations, did you start mapping out where you wanted to go, or were you just going to places that were close by? What was your plan of, your tactical plan of action?
It was that. It was places that, because it starts to add up. You're
Right.
staying in hotels, you're renting cars. These places some of them aren't cheap. Some of them are.
Right.
Are priced okay. But yeah, it was my itinerary, and it strongly depended on when the places were open, when they were available. And that's kind of how I mapped it out, and starting with the battleship USS North Carolina, and then ending up at West Virginia State Penitentiary.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more solo investigations. We'll hear some of the places Patrick investigated on his own and what kind of activity took place. When we return to the best in paranormal talk radio, this is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
We're back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. Timelines, solo overnight explorations of some of America's most haunted locations. Our guest this evening, Patrick Orozco, is here with us talking to us about the locations and his own experiences with the supernatural. We heard about your group investigation at Waverly, which even though you were in a group, you still seemed to yield some really interesting activity. You saw shadow people. And did that start to shape and change your perceptions of the world around us? Not only that you saw maybe 1 or 2 fleeting shadow people, but you saw them moving around you, whirling around you. I mean, that's got to be pretty life-changing.
It was completely life-changing. And that's why I went to Waverly Hills, because I just wanted to see if it was going to happen, if anything, if I was going to be able to record any EVPs, and I did. But yeah, the shadow experience. If nothing had happened, and I have had folks who have gone to Waverly and have been really disappointed, and had nights where nothing happens, and that happens. I've been to a location here in Texas where I was there 2 nights and absolutely nothing happened. No EVPs, no shadows, nothing. It was really frustrating. But if nothing had happened at Waverly, I would have moved on. I was going to move on with a different plan for my life. I was going to change my life. But those experiences put me on this path. And I'm really happy they happened. And I had gone there with a completely skeptical mind, very cynical. I didn't think anything was going to happen. I thought, I probably got taken. But it was astonishing to have all those experiences, and to, I also had a knocking, the knocking answer experience where I ask a question and I ask if you can you answer with 1 knock or 2 knocks, and I had that experience there too in the cafeteria, and I did have a few EVPs, and again, because I was with a group, it was very difficult to separate myself from the group, so I only had the hospital alone for maybe 10, 20 minutes at a time. And then the group would catch up to me, and I'd have to run away to some other empty part of the
Did they think you're up to some kind of shenanigans? You'd go scurrying down the hall every time they'd show up?
No, one guy realized what I was doing, and he kind of complimented me. He says, "Man, I don't think I could do what you're doing." I felt good about that.
Well, let's talk about the idea of now you're going to go forward into some of these locations alone. And before that, I guess I should say, after Waverly, did you hit up any other places, either in small groups or with a couple of friends?
No, I was determined. I was determined that the following year I would solo, and that's how it happened. And I mean, I have a day job, and I only had so many vacation days.
What?
And like I said,
is that how the real world works?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Sadly, yes. Yes, I still haven't paid for any of this. So I knew I had to go do this, and I felt really good about soloing. So
All right. So what was your first place? Yeah. What was the first place on your list that you decided you were going to go check out?
The first place was the USS North Carolina.
USS North Carolina. And what about that specifically stood out to you that said, I want to check this out?
Well, I wanted to go to places where I had seen other ghost hunters on TV running from and screaming and yelling out obscenities. And I wanted to see, okay, what's so scary about this? Why? I mean, if you're a ghost hunter, if you're a seasoned paranormal investigator and you're running, screaming from these places, maybe this isn't your line of work. Maybe this isn't something you should be doing.
Well, you do realize that in some cases on these reality shows, that's how they, keep going. Because if they were just acting cool and like tough asses, it would be pretty boring to see that on TV every week after week.
And that's why people probably aren't watching my videos. Because I don't do that. I never do that. There's really no reason to do that. Nothing ever happened. Except recently at Yoakum Community Hospital.
Oh, see? Nothing ever happens until recently. Nice tickle. I like that. All right. Well, we'll get to what happened at Yoakum. And for now, what you need to do is bring a hapless compatriot so you guys can investigate separately, but bring somebody who's a lot dumber and slower and more terrified than you. So that way they're tuning in to at least see that goofball react to everything. But let's talk about this first investigation. You set up to go check it out on your own. And what are some of the stories that you'd heard about this?
Just what's on the website, what was on Ghost Hunters. I think they went in there, and they didn't come away with a whole lot. They came away with maybe a couple of EVPs, but I just thought the idea of exploring a battleship, like a World War II battleship all night long was just awesome. Mm-hmm. I couldn't wait to get on that battleship because, I mean, I felt privileged in a way to have that ship to myself for all night, for, over 12 hours. And it was just the greatest experience, something I'll remember forever, just to have that opportunity to explore a whole battleship just for one guy. It was an awesome experience.
All right. Well, walk me through this. When you go in, again, you've got kind of low expectations because what you've read is not real exciting. And, the ghost hunters didn't walk out of there with much in the way. So you didn't have high expectations for the paranormal, but you were definitely psyched about just the experience and the history of being where you were.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. What was that night like? And now that you're in there on your own, first time, what's it like to be alone in one of these settings? Is it unnerving? Is it exciting? Is it a mixture of both?
It's a little bit of a mixture of both. It's definitely exciting. I get an adrenaline rush right at the beginning. And you do get your little butterflies in the gut there because you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of these places had claims of physical contact. And it's something that I'm always asking for. If you can't communicate, can you touch me? Can you hit me? Can you punch me? Because...
You just say it's okay. Yeah, hey, can you punch me, kick me, give me a good shot to the goodie sack? How about what happened with just a conversation? How about just, can you tickle my back? Why don't we ever ask that from a ghost?
Well, the reason I do this,
right,
is because you can't think maybe you got touched or you had physical contact. Either you did or you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the more extreme it is, I think you can't debunk that. If you get slapped or you get pushed, I'm sure you could figure out a way to fake that. But I ask for it because then it makes it more real for me to have that experience there. And I was waiting for it. I was expecting it, and I was ready for it. And if it happened, I was going to be okay with it, as long as it wasn't too they didn't throw me down a hatch or something. Because
right.
then you fall down a hatch in a battleship, and you're going to become the newest ghost on board. So it's an old battleship. The stairs are very narrow. They're really steep. It's hard to maneuver, having I'm documenting everything I'm doing with a video camera, and going down those really steep stairs is terrifying. Because I had to have a flashlight too, because it's dark, and that's where the fear kind of was for me, because I thought I really don't want to fall down these stairs.
So you weren't worried about demons rising up from the pits of hell and dragging your soul down into the abyss. You just didn't want to slip on a stair.
No, yeah, I really didn't want to. And luckily I didn't. I almost fell down a hatch.
Okay.
And that was an experience there. It's dark. Obviously, it's dark. It started out pretty slow. Not a whole lot was going on. Sometimes I'd hear some knocking sounds, some creaking sounds. It wasn't until I got into the engine room, and that was much later in the evening, that things got kind of interesting. And
all right. What was the first experience that you thought, oh, this is something different?
In the battleship, because it was. I was only hearing, like knocking sounds. At one point, I kind of got the sense that maybe somebody was rustling outside of the room I was in. I was in sick bay actually at the time.
All right.
But when I got to the engine room, something really, really unexpected happened that I didn't think was going to happen, and I was thrilled. I was happy. I beyond belief, and I was taking pictures. And I had the only thing I had going was maybe one or two audio recorders. And as I was taking pictures, I suddenly started to feel this overwhelming rage and anger, and this feeling like I didn't belong here. I wasn't wanted here. I was unwelcome, and it was overwhelming. And I couldn't understand I couldn't understand what was happening. I didn't know why I was having these feelings. I just knew that maybe it's time to get out of the engine room, because I've already been in the engine room maybe about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And, a plausible explanation is maybe I was in an EMF cage, because there was a lot of buzzing, a lot of electricity in the engine room. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's what happened to me. Some folks who I've told this to think maybe I was briefly possessed. I don't know. I just know that I had those feelings, and they didn't feel like my feelings. I work retail, and I feel rage almost every day. But
I love that. I worked retail too. I don't know if it was possession or just irritation, but I feel you on that.
But they weren't the way I feel those feelings. It's as if they belong to somebody else, and it threw me a little bit. And I realized, I got to get out of here. So I got out of the engine room, and a few minutes passed, and I felt like myself again. And it was interesting. But I'm glad I had it. I'm glad I had that experience, because it's something I hadn't felt before. And I don't know. And again, like I said, I don't know if it was paranormal or not. I don't know.
Well, right. But what else would you feel? I mean, why else would you have that sensation? All right, so that was your first foray. You get in there, you got to feel pretty confident. You've tackled this big place all on your own. You've had some cool experiences. You didn't lose your shit. So this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Where's the next place you settle on visiting?
Next place was Fort Mifflin.
Oh, okay, great. We've been to Fort Mifflin.
Philly.
Sure. What kind of experiences did you encounter there?
All kinds of things. Things really picked up at Fort Mifflin, and I was a little worried about it because you know Fort Mifflin is right. I mean, Philadelphia International is just a quarter of a mile away, and the jets are flying almost directly overhead.
Right.
And I thought, wow, this is going to be tough to make a video here because these jets aren't going to stop. But I kind of think that was actually good. I think that all that energy really got the place going that night. Again, it started out kind of slow until I got to the the commandant's quarters. That's when things really started to go.
All right, what happened?
I started hearing slamming sounds. I saw a big shadow person go around one of the chimneys. I heard knocking sounds behind me. I heard footsteps on the platform that got there. It really picked up for me. And a lot of that is in the video.
Now, did you ever feel at any point like maybe you were in over your head when it starts getting that active? Do you ever think, maybe I should just leave this to other people?
No, not at all. I want stuff to happen. I think the biggest fear that I have is that I'm going to go to a place like I went to here in Texas. I went to a location here where absolutely nothing happened. And I want stuff to happen, and I want big stuff to happen. Big sounds, big footsteps, that sort of thing. And, it picked up for me at Fort Mifflin and culminated really in one of the casemates.
Did you feel that at any point there was something dark or malevolent at at that location? Or did it just seem like you were just there as witness to part of history replaying itself?
Both, actually. The casemates 1 through 5, I did feel it. I felt an unusual sense of dread the whole time I was in there, as if somebody was like near me, close to me, with the potential to hurt me. It was pretty strong, but then again, the casemates are very cave-like. I think maybe it's natural to feel like as if the walls are kind of closing in on you. But another really unusual thing happened.
Okay.
In the casemates, and I was having trouble with my still camera, and I was trying to go through the menus to get to where I needed to be. I wanted to take a bunch of pictures,
mm-hmm.
And I was kneeling down on the floor, and I don't remember this happening at all, but someone, or perhaps me, said a very nonsensical thing, and on audio you hear nando, which nando is a Mexican short name for Fernando. And I don't know anybody by that name. I don't know why on earth I would say that, or why a ghost would say that at Fort Mifflin.
Are you sure they weren't just singing, "Tell me cuando"?
No, this is before then.
Okay.
And I heard it when I was going through my video and my audio, and I didn't even flag it. It didn't even register. I didn't process it for some reason until I saw it again when I was editing the video. And it really took me aback. I was really shocked by it because I thought, what the, that wasn't me. I don't ever remember having any reason to say anything like that. And again, it goes back to that, well, if it was me, was I just briefly possessed to say this nonsensical word? Or was it something in there that I don't know, just identified me as a Latino and said, I'm going to screw with this guy. And
What, do you think it was a racist ghost?
I don't know.
Oh, look, it's one of those Latinos. Let's get him, guys.
I don't know. Maybe he was just having fun with me. Maybe it just thought I'm going to screw with this guy. I don't know.
All right.
I think that's possible. Why not?
Sure, why not? All right, so you hit Fort Mifflin. Where's your third location?
Third location was Bobby Mackey's.
All right. Now, what did you think of Bobby Mackey's personally?
Well, on the TV shows, for some reason they were saying that it was a gateway to hell.
Right.
Because of the pit in the floor.
I think it's just because it's a country bar, but pit in the floor works as well.
And I later learned that there's nothing demonic or that's ever been associated with that location at any time. And when I saw the gateway to hell, I was really monumentally disappointed because it's just a hole in the ground that's been covered with dirt. I didn't understand.
What would have made you happy if there were like flames licking at your feet and smoke and the smell of sulfur rising up from the ground?
If on TV they're saying, "Oh yeah, we had it was filled with demons and there's a whole pit that's a gateway to hell." Yeah, I thought, man, this is really disappointing.
I want a gate. I want to hear the torments and the laments from all the souls down there.
Something,
right?
Anything, except the hole in the ground,
right?
But Bobby Mackey's was interesting.
Did you have any experiences there?
I got something on video that's really hard to explain.
All right, explain. And it's not an orb, is it?
It's not an orb.
All right, good. I was going to have to hang up on you.
Yeah. What I do is I have my camera, my POV camera, my point of view camera, and I'll usually set up another video camera in the corner to cover me. If something happens behind me and I'm not looking, and then I'll get it on B camera. And it's on B camera, and I'll roll that camera and then walk into the shot, into frame. And I had rolled B camera, and I was filming something else in the bar area, and on B camera, and this is in the mechanical bull room. There's this anomalous blob that appears in the middle of the frame and then shoots up and goes through the ceiling. And it's kind of semi-transparent, and it happens really quickly. But as it goes through the ceiling, it makes a really weird electronic, staticky kind of sound. And that video's on my website for anybody to see. I wish somebody would see it.
Well, we'll put up a link to your website as well. And we'll make sure that's available so that they can find the book. First of all, you can find the book just by going to darknessradio.com and clicking on the Killer Deals link. You'll find all of the great books we cover on the show. Plus, you'll see some of the other items, movies, DVDs, paranormal TV shows, all the cool things that Tim and I have personally collected and put into our Amazon shop for our listeners, including ghost hunting gear, Bigfoot hunting gear, and more, some really great swag and clothes as well. So go check that out. But Timeline's solo overnight explorations of some of America's most haunted locations. We have a link up to that on our site. So that'll be there. And as I said, we'll put up a link to your website so people can go check out the videos.
Yes, please. I'd like somebody to explain what that was.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that and take a look at it as well for the show. So let's move through. I know time is slipping away from us. So after you hit those, what's your next stop?
My last stop on my East Coast trip was West Virginia State Penitentiary. And awesome location. I'd never been in jail. I've never been to a prison, especially one that was that old. I think that one's more than 200 years old. Just a great place, and it's huge. There's no way you can cover the whole place in one night. It would take at least 2 nights. So I stayed mostly in North Hall, went down in the hole where one prisoner was hacked to death, And things started to happen at the prison too. I did start to have knocking sounds, footsteps, that sort of thing. And again, there's always something that stands out at all of these locations. And what stands out the most for me that I remember from was the psych ward. And I'm still not sure that this was paranormal, but it was unusual. It was highly unusual, because while I was in the psych ward, there were a lot of clicking, clanking, knocking sounds, and they wouldn't stop. They just kept going and going. And every time I'd ask, get louder, do more, they'd do more, and it'd get louder.
And you don't know if that was paranormal.
Well, I try to debunk as much as possible, and
right.
I thought, well, could there be something happening? Could I mean, the ceiling was metal. Could it be the roof? And the roof was exposed. You could see the roof because the ceiling was gone. And I just thought, well, it was kind of a warm day, and now it's a coolish night.
All right, I can respect that. Yeah, questioning those.
Yeah.
I get that. All right.
Yeah, but when I moved over to the medical ward, and this was a really great night because there were a lot of thunderstorms that night. So I had another thunderstorm happen when I was in the medical ward, and those noises just took off. It got really loud. I heard crashing sounds, all kinds of stuff. I heard somebody run by me, and I thought, okay, well then that is paranormal.
Right.
And it's a great place. I'd love to go back. I plan to go back because it's an awesome place, and it got active for me, and I did get some pretty good EVPs. Nothing visual on video, unfortunately, but a lot of interesting interactions with knocking sounds and all the stuff that happened in the psych ward.
Are there any places on your list yet that you have to check off that you really want to get into?
Coming up soon in a few months, the Sally House.
Okay.
Only because of the history and the alleged demon stuff that happened in there. That's been on my list. Melbourne Manor is coming up soon. I'll be soloing that place, and then I'll be at Villisca at the Axe House. The Axe Murder House.
Right.
In Villisca. Yeah.
Are there any places that you look at and you're like, I don't know that I want to go there yet. I'm going to keep working my way up to that one.
No, there's no place. There's no place on this globe, on this planet, that I will not go in solo.
Well, very cool. We wish you a lot of luck. And as you continue hitting these places up, let us know. Now, when you do these videos, are you live streaming the videos? Are you recording them on the site and then posting them up later?
Yeah, I record them on site and then edit them together and sort of make a show out of it. And I'll feature the history of the place and then my exploration and all the things that I found. Mostly, it's a lot of EVPs.
Well, if
and I post them to my website.
Since you're not afraid of this stuff, if you want, I'll send Tim along for a couple of investigations. So then you can strap him to a chair and tell the ghosts to come up and slap him, beat him, kick him, whatever, and watch his reactions. That'll help draw people in.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time I've been slapped around. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Patrick, thank you for spending some time with us, and good luck on your continued solo investigations. Be safe. Would you do that for us?
I will be. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's it. Remember, if you're going to go out there and experience the paranormal, folks, do it smart. Be smart about it. I encourage you to live life and explore and have the time of your life doing this. I don't necessarily think, like Patrick, you should be asking the ghosts to kick the shit out of you. Maybe try it a different way, but everybody's got a different approach. Try something different and see how you get communication. But I think that it's out there, and I think there's something remarkable just outside of our normal vision and peripheral. And you should be experiencing it, whether it's in larger groups when you're in the safety of company of people like Tim and I at these larger events at darknessevents.com, or just going in. But make sure that where you go, you do it on your own and you do it for the right reasons. Don't go into it looking to become famous or a TV star, because as most of the world will tell you, that is a very small, limited allotment of people that actually make it through that sieve to get to that point. Do it for your reasons and try to make sense of it. Yes, Tim?
No.
Oh, I thought you were making a point you wanted to jump in on.
No.
You were just pointing to the ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
God is with me, Dave.
God is with you. Well, that's good. But be safe, be kind, and we will see you guys again on Friday with another brand new show, plus Theater of the Mind. Tomorrow, Tim's going to run another special edition of one of our past archive shows, so make sure you tune in to check that out right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.